time to remind them why they fear.
Today's subject is dealing with the world today. And what I would like to do is to explain to each and every one of you the reality of the world we live in. But the way I would like to do it is by using a book named Al-Furqan, the criterion. It tells you what is right and it tells you what is wrong. This book is a book that explains all things. So, if it's a book that explains all things, as Surah 16, verse 8 and 9 tells you, and mention the day when we will resurrect among every nation a witness over them from themselves, their prophets. And we will bring you, O Muhammad, as a witness over these. And we have sent down to you the book as a clarification, as an explanation for all things, and as a guidance and mercy and good tidings for the Muslims. You see, this book tells you it's a book that explains all things. So if you want an understanding of any question you got, where do you go to? The Quran tells you where? To the Quran. And in Surah 4. Surah 4 is the surah dealing with women. It tells you to obey Allah and obey the Messenger. And this is a verse that I intend to read to you. Surah 4, verse 59 says, "O you who have believed, obey Allah and obey the Messenger, and those in authority from amongst you." It didn't say, "and obey the authority." It says, "Obey Allah and obey the Messenger and those in authority among you. And if you disagree over anything, refer it to Allah and the Messenger if you should believe in Allah and the last day." That is the best way and best in results. So the Quran is telling you that if there is a confusion among those in authority, among those that claims to be scholars, what do? You go back to Allah and go back to the Messenger. The Quran is the words of Allah. But how will you know the words of our prophets? You need the Sunnah. Because the prophet is described as a walking Quran. You want to know how to pray? The Quran tells you to pray. It doesn't tell you how to pray. You need the Sunnah to explain to you how to pray. So for all these sects that tells you that they don't need the Sunnah, the Quran in this verse is enough to tell you you need the Sunnah. Even though there are many verses telling you to follow the Sunnah. So, what we have to realize is that you can't go wrong when you got the authentic knowledge coming from the Quran and coming from the Sunnah. Now, let me tell you the honor this nation has. And after I tell you the honor this nation, Ummah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has, I want to ask you, do you think that the Ummah today, not during the Prophet time, today, do you think that they are doing a good job as representing this deen, as implementing this deen? Because in Islam, before you can speak, you have to do. You have to practice before you preach, or else you are a hypocrite. Now, listen for yourself from the Quran the honor this nation has. Surah 2, verse 143 tells you, and thus we have made you a just nation, an ummah, that you will be witnesses over the people. And the messenger will be a witness over you. Surah 3, verse 110 tells you, you are the best ummah, nation, raised up for mankind. You enjoin what is right, and you forbid what is wrong, and you believe in Allah. Can you now see the position of honor that this ummah have? That we are the best of people because we invite to what is right and we forbid what is wrong. Unlike the ummah today, that is the biggest sheep there are. And our prophet himself warned about this time, which I would love to get into. You see, this Quran is a mercy. You see, this prophet is a mercy to all of mankind. He is known as the praised one. Just imagine the honor this ummah has, that we are an ummah with this privilege. But yet, instead of being proud of the deen, we instead dilute the deen. We instead tailor the deen for what the people wants to hear, what fake news wants to hear, what the kuffar wants, instead of what Allah decrees and wants. Now, I will now tell you that since we are the best of ummah, I will show you how the Muslims today failed at it in such a horrendous way. And the way I would like to do it is by listing different points. Point number one is that our Prophet Muhammad said that if you see the non-Muslims enters the lizard hole, you will see the Muslim enters the lizard hole. Footstep by footstep, they will follow what society says over what Allah says. None of these. Islam came as something strange, and it will return as something strange. So blessed are the strangers. They didn't ever say, blessed are the sheep. They didn't ever say, blessed are the 15 stooges. So how come our prophet said this, and he's a walking Quran, and yet you fail at this? Aspect number one of how you failed as Ummah at this. And at the end of the talk, I will now ask you a question. That if you don't do your job, the Quran makes mention that Allah can easily replace you with a people who will be dedicated. And that time is coming. Because the authentic hadith makes mention how all the different Muslim countries will collapse. And the last of the Islamic cities to collapse is Medina. Prophet Muhammad said, when you see Medina in ruins, look to Jerusalem. That's when it will be flourishing. So you think Jerusalem is flourishing right now? It's about to get a lot more flourishing. Make no mistake about it. Then look for the Mullah al-Kubra. So the Muslim countries has to collapse before the Mullah al-Kubra. Then after the Mullah al-Kubra, then you have Fatul Constantinople, the conquest, the true conquest of Constantinople. Then Dajjal comes. So when we say that the Muslim countries will collapse, you may ask me why? Because Prophet Muhammad made mention in many authentic hadiths about why. Prophet Muhammad made mention that a time is coming when enemies of Islam will gather upon the Ummah like a dish and will be taken from that dish. Is it because we are small in number? Prophet himself said, you are large in number. Large as the scum of the sea or the foam. But it is because of love of this life over the next is why this will happen. So if you have this information, why is it that we as an ummah can't realize the problem? Why can't we look at every Muslim country there is and maybe one that is actually following authentic information coming from Quran and Sunnah. As far as I'm concerned, the Prophet Muhammad made mention about the caliphate structure and made mention that the caliphate structure will be in a total collapse to such an extent that it will be first contaminated into a kingship form of rule. After the kingship caliphate, then there will be an abolishment of the caliphate. After the abolishment of the caliphate, then there will be a restorement of the caliphate. So, if you watch the Ummah today, it's not in a caliphate structure. They are divided into different states. So just by being divided into different states tells you something is wrong. And that yes, the caliphate structure will be established back. Islam will prevail, but before it prevails, Muslim countries has to collapse. And Muslim countries will be invaded. Prophet Muhammad made mention in Sahih Muslim, and many authentic hadiths talks about the corruption. But let me quote you one. Prophet Muhammad said that Egypt will be invaded. Iraq will be invaded. Sham and Yemen will be invaded. And made mention also the collapse of the currency of these nations. So, when you have this information, the question is, why will this happen? The hadith tells you it's because you long for this world over the next. So, in order for you to get back to reality, you will be pounded in the most horrible states that a time is coming when a person will pass by a grave and wish he was there. The Ummah will be in a very hard state. Look at our brothers in Palestine. Look at our innocent brothers, sisters, children in Palestine that is being slaughtered. Unjustly slaughtered by the pharaohs of today. You know what's something? Is that the Quran makes mention in Surah Yunus about when the body of Pharaoh is discovered, that it will be a sign for generations, the later generations. And what is shocking is that the Zionist movement, when this body of Pharaoh was discovered, the Zionist movement came about the same time. It was about only 1 year difference. So literally, these pharaohs of today killing innocent people in Palestine. You think what's happening in Palestine is bad? Even though it's really bad. Just imagine how bad the Ummah has to get that every country will collapse to the extent that the last of the Islamic cities to collapse is Medina. Picture, some of the Mahdi's army is coming from the same place in Palestine. So you need to be very understanding of what our prophet said. Why is this happening? Because this ummah became too materialistic. Look at them. whatever the news say, whatever the business, music, entertainment industry says, they are like sheep following the literal step by step. They want role models that are servants of Iblis, following them rather than the true role model who was the walking Quran that has been sent as a mercy to man and known as the Khatam an-Nabiyyin, the seal of the prophets. That is the honor we have, that he will intercede for us on the day of judgment. All other prophets will not be able to do it, but our prophet is given that. And such an honor we have, and look at how you degrade yourself in such a disgraceful state. Allah makes mention in the Quran, if you don't do your job, Allah can easily replace you with somebody who does their job. So, the reason why the Sunnah is in a state like it's in is because the Ummah has become materialistic. And now, to get the Ummah to be ready to be part of the Mahdi's army, that they can die for the sake of Allah, they would have to encounter tests of fear, have to encounter very hardship that they would rather be in the grave than face what happens on the earth. Allah says that he will test you, but he wants to see if you fear him and him alone. So, these collapses of the countries will cause, from the rubble of these countries, the Mahdi's army, there will be a people who will die for the sake of Allah, and they will be victorious. They will be victorious and liberate all the areas that have been invaded. And when Jesus comes back in the masjid of Damascus, Allah makes mention, and through our prophets, that Islam, Allah will bring an end to all religions except Islam. Before good can happen, a lot of corruption will happen. That during the Mahdi's time, before him was corruption. As soon as he comes is when the good will start. And the Hadith makes mention how long he will be in the Ummah for after this. And makes mention how long Prophet Jesus, alayhi salam, when he comes back, how long he will remain on earth before he dies. And then, very soon after, there will be a wind that will take the souls of the believers and leave the most evil of people on earth. And that's why the hour will come upon the worst people. So we have the time frame. Now, since we are dealing with the subject of the world today, and since we are the best nation, because we fight what is right and we forbid the evil, we are supposed to share truth to everyone on this earth. Because we will be questioned for what we did. Now, let me see if this ummah is actually living up to the definition of what this ummah stands for. We, by definition, are an ummah that submit to the laws of the law and what the prophet says. We invite to what is right and we forbid what is wrong. Now the real subject starts. Do we fulfill that? The answer is no. Today is a total shameful state. And I am not talking about those who follows the Quran and Sunnah, because our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu made mention in authentic hadith that there will be a small group of people that will continuously keep on bringing back the truth until Jesus comes back. While the masses of the people, you watch, not once, but goes into corruption. And there is the Ummah today, as we watch, following delusional, because they want to mimic what they see. So, the first point that I need to deal with is the point of what society says. Society wants to separate the creator from the creation. Society wants you to separate religion from state. Those who control society is the one engineering this. The Zionist pyramid Jesuit system, Kabbalistic, Rosicrucian, Night Templar, you can go on and on, system. This system does not want you to stick to Allah's law. They want you to talk like this. Oh, that's politics. Oh, that's economics. We don't have time to deal with politics or economics. We just, when we are Muslim, do our 5 daily prayers and live our lives. Read some Quran, and that's it. And pay some charity, zakat. Is that what our prophet says? Why was Surah 48 revealed? Why was there the treaty of Hudaybiyah? Why did the prophet deal with different empires? And there was letters that were sent to different empires. Politics is what our prophet did. But what did he do? He based politics based from the Quran and Sunnah. Are you telling me that our prophet never fought war? There was no such thing as a battle of Tabuk, battle of Badr, battle of Uhud, and all these ghazwas and all these wars. Wait, you are telling me that our prophet never did a war? Did you fail to realize that this is politics? But actually, the politics makes a Jew to Allah's law. And you fail to realize that our prophet told you the future wars that is going to happen. That is what you get for cherry picking the book instead of putting everything in context. What about economics? Huh? Oh, the subject of economics. This is not dealing with religion. Really? Is that why our prophet talks about a time is coming when interest will even come, even if the vapor of interest is there. The dust, or whatever you want to say, is there. Every aspect of this system is built on interest. You do interest, it's like you wage war against the Creator and the prophets. Our prophet will tell you what is good money from what is bad money, what is halal earning from what is haram earning. The Quran will tell you money with intrinsic value. Why is it that we are separating everything away from the foundation? You see, the difference of the people in the past during the prophet's time and the scholars of the past and the people today is that the people today tailor their religion to what society says, besides a few. The people in the past, on the other hand, will not do that. They will make sure that every subject is being geared to the Quran and Sunnah. And so what is needed is for a revival of understanding of what our prophet said before it's too late. Now, let me read to you authentic hadith from our prophet, Prophet Moses. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu reported that the messenger of Allah, Prophet Moses, said, "Verily, among what I fear most for my nation is every hypocrite with a knowledgeable thought." Muslim Ahmed 140 Hadith. Great Sahih. None of these. Abu Dhar said, I was with the Prophet Muhammad one day, and I heard him say, there is something I fear for my ummah more than that joke. It was then that I became afraid. So I said, O Rasulullah, which thing is that? He said, misguided scholars, misguided and astray scholars. This is another authentic hadith from Muslim Ahmed. Thawban narrated that the Prophet Muhammad said, I only fear for my ummah from the misguided imamah. Now, listen carefully. Authentic hadith, Sahih Muslim 156, Jabir bin Abdullah reported, I heard the messenger of Allah say, Prophet Muhammad, a section of my people will not cease fighting for truth and will prevail till the day of resurrection. He said, Jesus, the son of Mary, would then descend, and their Muslim commander would invite him to come and lead them in prayer. But he would say, no, some amongst you are commanders over some. This is the honor from Allah for this ummah. See, a section of my people will be fighting for truth while the others are defeated. Now, since I've made that point clear, I want to clarify to you some misunderstanding. That when the prophet said, Prophet Moses, that he feared to you more than Dajjal, the misguided scholars doesn't mean not to follow the true scholars. Listen to this piece, because people runs their mouth without talking in context. Sahih Muslim 2673, Abdullah bin Umar bin al-As radiallahu anhu reported that Allah's messenger, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, "Verily, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not take away knowledge by snatching it from the people, but He takes away knowledge by taking away the who? The scholars, so that when He leaves no learned person, people turn to the ignorant as their leaders. Then they are asked to deliver religious verdicts, and they deliver them without knowledge. They go astray, and they lead others astray." Let that point sink in. That the time is coming when scholars will be corrupt. And any supposed scholar that speaks and tailors the religion to suit what society says is not a true scholar, is an ignorant person. Be careful with misguided and astray scholars, or sheikhs, or people of this matter. A true scholar would say that knowledge goes back to our prophet, because the prophet said, "Respect me by following my companions and the 2 more generations. After this is when falsehood happens." You know what that means? That means that any sect that came yesterday is already deemed false. Because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam made mention in authentic hadith that this ummah will divide into 73 sects. And there will be one sect that is right, even though it is not right to be a sect, because the Quran tells you that in more than one verse. But one sect, aqidah, beliefs, creed, will be correct. Which sect would that be? The sect that follows me and my companions. That sect is the Sunni sect, because Sunni comes from the word Sunnah, and Sunnah is the words and actions of our prophet, being narrated also through the companions. The Shias, some of them don't accept the Quran as completely the word of Allah or authentic. And different sects cherry picks the Quran. Some sects even says you don't need the hadith. The right sect is the Sunni sect, even though it is not right to be a sect. So when you identify the reality of the world we live in, you will recognize the situation you are dealing with. Please, brothers and sisters, when you first and foremost go to the Quran, do not cherry pick the Quran. Take it in its full context, the way it was revealed to our prophets, and not the way you want to twist it. Now, to get deeper You see, people who promotes the ideology of secularism, of religion and state is separate, that politics and religion is separate, some of these sheikhs and some of these supposed scholars would speak like this. What they fail to realize is that some of these scholars or sheikhs would even advocate to go and vote, to go and become a politician, to go and take part in a system based on shirk. If Allah makes the laws, He is the judge, and He gave you the Sharia to follow. He makes the laws, but instead you turn and all say, we believe in a representative democracy. I call it a representative democracy. Why? Because democracy was a satanic trick. The demons told you this. The demons are the ones wanting you to disobey. Whether if you knowingly know it or you unknowingly know this, the one pushing for this shirk system is the demons first, and the demons of humans. You see, when you have a democracy, you mean rule of the people. So democracy altogether is equal satanic deception. Call it democracy. A representative democracy is the supposedly people electing a representative to represent the opinions and the thoughts of the people. And now you advocate to be a politician. You advocate to take part in a shirk-based system of making people as a lawgiver. Instead of making a law the lawgiver, you are taking part in a shirk. How? Because in authentic hadith, listen very carefully. This hadith is in Sunnah and Trinity. So you don't have any excuse when I'm done. The hadith is about the people. Adi ibn Ayat, radiallahu anhu, reported, I heard the messenger of Allah, Prophet, recite the verse. They have taken their scholars and monks as lords besides Allah. So I said to him, the hadith continues, we do not worship them. I mean, the people don't worship them. He replied, don't they forbid what Allah allows, the halal? And don't they allow what Allah forbids? Then he replied, I said, yes. He said, that is how they're being worshipped. That is how you, the people, are worshiping these people. None of these. That is telling you not to do it is a similar hadith representing the same exact subject about the worshiping of the rabbis and the priests. They make, authentic hadith, they make halal what Allah makes haram, and vice versa. That is how they worship them. That is their shirk. Now, if Allah is the lawgiver, and a caliph's duty is to establish Allah's law and not his own, since when do you get people making the laws? Huh? When do you get people making these laws? And you look at the laws even in the Muslim countries. Don't go far. And how many times do they violate Allah's law? That is their shirk. That they take what they said over what Allah said. And now, since you advocate for your Muslim brothers to be part of the system based on shirk, you are doing yourselves the wrong also. So be very careful and watch these people who you consider as sheikhs and scholars who are really ignorant people. They like to tailor their deen. A true scholar will be like our Prophet said, Islam came as something strange and will return as something strange, so blessed are the strangers. They stand up for what is right and they forbid what is wrong. That is a true scholar. They do not be like these fake sheikhs and fake scholars that tells you, let's team up with some of the LGBTQ crowds to get some rights. Rights from a system based on shirk. And now some of these people that did the wrong now is coming out and saying they regret some of the actions they did a few years ago. What they fail to realize is they continuously commit more and more of these kinds of corruption. If it's not LGBTQ, it is some other corruption they keep making. Because they're so glued and focused on what society says instead of what the law says. They care about people instead of focusing on being vis-a-vis the law. Such a shameful state can you be. The first hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari tells you that every deed is based on an intention, and if you attach the deed with something worldly, you're only going to be getting due to the worldliness. So never, ever do anything except for the sake of Allah, and not for yourselves. So, aspect number one that the Ummah fails in, and I'm not talking about those who stand for right and forbid wrong. I'm talking about the flocks of sheep, which some among them wants to call as sheikhs and scholars. You know who I'm talking about. Those who like to tailor their religion to fit in with society instead of fitting out and being the stranger, being the role model of what is right. How do you be it? By following the only role model, the Prophet himself. Prophet Muhammad is the last and seal of the prophets. He's a walking Quran. So why are you looking at these satanic people for guidance or for your role model? Don't you realize that our prophet, when he came with the message, that was enough. Why do you behave like something else is more important or something else is enough? Be very careful, because these people who are ignorant scholars today want to water down their religion. Take things out of context. You speak on mercy, you hear them only talk about mercy to such an extent that the people who are the flocks and sheep will say, oh, Allah is most gracious, most merciful, so let me do all the wrong in life. Let me use this as my ticket. And then I can say Allah is forgiving, and Allah will forgive me. Do you realize Allah knows your heart? That when you ask for forgiveness, it is supposed to be from a sincere heart, not to do it again. Why is it that you don't speak how the Prophet speaks, based on the context of the Quran and Sunnah? Why do you cherry pick? I just mentioned to you about secularism. I just mentioned to you about the shirkish system of government today. The only government you are supposed to do is a caliphate structure based on the Quran and Sunnah, that Allah is the lawgiver and not people. Because on the day of judgment, you know the judicial branch that have different judges inside different courts until you get to the Supreme Court? These are your Tom, Dick, and Harrys, the nobody judges. On the day of judgment, you don't have any judge except one, Allah. And he's known as the master of the day of judgment. So, you better get it right now before you have a day of judgment, which is 50,000 years. You have not lived that long on this earth. So why don't you get it right before it's too late? So, point number one is the Ummah has tailored, some of the scholars have tailored their religion to fit in with society. Now the second point that I would like to talk about, political parties. What is a political party? A waste of time. It's a party. It's wasting your time. You choose sides. Is that what Allah says? You don't choose sides. You choose what is truth and you forbid falsehood. What is false is a shirk-like system. People say you follow the laws of the land, and I'm telling you from the words of the Quran and Sunnah and our Prophet. You follow Allah's law and make sure that the law of the land makes it due to Allah's law. And if you can't practice your deed in the land because they won't tolerate it, well then get out of the land and find a place where you can practice. Is that hard to answer? But you're going to tell me that you are going to water your being to fit in with society, to please people, and disobey and displease the law. How foolish can you be? Actually, foolish is too mild for you. You know why? Because let me read what Surah Jumu'ah has to say about the Jews. Surah Jumu'ah, Surah 62, says, in verse number 5. The example of those who were entrusted with the Torah and did not take it on, meaning follow it or read it, is like that of a donkey who carries volumes of books. Wretched is the example of the people who deny the signs of the law, and the law does not guide the wrongdoing people. So, political parties is a waste of time. Obviously, if you want to know the two sides, liberal and conservative, Democrat and Republican, you are really supposed to understand that the liberal side is the most evil, trillion times worse than the other side. Why? Because these people are the ones promoting LGBTQ. These people jumps back and forth. They're not people to take serious. They don't represent what a place stands for. They are flippers and floppers, insignificant, animalistic people. People of no purpose. These people, today if society says something, they jump on this side. And then tomorrow if society says something else, they jump on that side. Since when you Muslims chooses sides instead of following truth and forbidding evil? Our prophet, when he see innovation, when God flushed red, and these misguided scholars would always say, oh, the prophet smiled. The prophet was always smiling, but would never speak based on context that indeed the prophet smiles, but also the prophet got flushed red. And when he got flushed red, the prophet himself would get angry. Sahih Bukhari makes mention many hadiths about it. And there was times when the prophet would talk in a different way. But do we just cherry pick and say the prophet was smiling, patting people on the head? No. Our prophet would be a man, a prophet who feeds to be the Lord. So be very careful with the context that comes from the Quran and Sunnah. The liberals, they have zero meaning. Do you know that Prophet Lut's time, the people, those who were even sympathetic were destroyed? Not committing the act, just being sympathetic. And also, during Prophet Lut's time, the people who were committing the act of gay or lesbian or all this other garbage would be destroyed in the most brutal state. Very dangerous state, they will be destroyed. Transgender. Why don't you Muslims do the right thing and talk to these corrupt groups and say this? We are never part of you. We ditch you aside. You claim that there's more than one gender, more than two genders, that there are 100 genders, and there's even transgender. Let me read to you what the Quran says. Surah Najm, Surah 53, tells you in verse 44, 45, and 46, and that it is he who caused death and gives life. And he created two mates, the male and the female, from a sperm drop when it is emitted. You see, these liberal groups like to promote everybody is equal. The question is everybody equal? Is everybody equal? If you say that everybody is created from Adam and Eve, and they are equal in terms of creation, equal in terms of being a human being, yes, this is where they're equal. That everybody came from Adam and Eve. But is somebody who is tall and somebody who is not tall, are they the same height? They're not equal. If somebody lifts 400, 500 pounds versus somebody who can just lift 20 pounds, are they equal? Answer is no. Is somebody living a dignified life equal to somebody who lives like a trash and an animalistic life? Are they equal? Are they equal? A person who is considered better than angels because he was given a free will and he states the truth, as somebody who is given a free will and given information and yet follow the low animalistic way? Are they the same? Is somebody who is knowledgeable equal to somebody who is not knowledgeable? The Quran says no. Are those who believe equal to those who disbelieve? The Quran says no. So what is it that you Muslims that are supposed to be the best of nations are being with those who are lowest of the low, that they deserve to even be eradicated? They are punished. Be very careful when teaming up with groups that is bound for destruction, because the time is coming that people of this Surah, Prophet somebody mentioned, will transform to animals, and that they will sink in the earth, and that stones will be pelted at them from above. And if you look at the nations before, you'll see these kind of things. So if you want to follow the way our prophet said, then that's good. But if you are now being around people who are bound for destruction, how do you not know that the destruction will not even catch you? If you do not do your job, Allah makes mention that He can replace you with those who will do their job, who will be dedicated. So, the liberal side is the most evil side, one of the biggest tools of Iblis. Now, let's get to the next side of the coin of the political party. Conservative side. They are much better. You can't compare to the liberal side, even though they're pagan. When they say something, at least they stick to what they believe in. Whether that be good or bad is not the focus right now. The liberal side is the wolf in sheep clothing. Conservative side is the wolf showing itself. It is man to man. It is not a coward like the liberal side is. When you watch the liberal side, their favorite word is not so one time and try to weaken everything down. Try to dilute everything down. They even want Muslims to identify and they say that everybody is equal. We promote equality as long as you submit to our terms. And that term requires you to change certain aspects of your deed. Dilute it a little bit. And we'll be with you. Let me tell you something. You can take them and throw them into the garbage where they belong. That's where they belong. But to make mention about these people wanting to think about equality and stuff. No, equality is based on Quran and Sunnah, not on your terms. We don't see you as equal. We see you as a low, degraded being, acting like an animal. We will never dilute our religion, compromise in our religion. We will stand for what is right, and we forbid what is evil. And now, these Muslims that likes to take on the liberal side will now start speaking topics geared to what the liberal side speaks. Whatever topic they speak, these stooges will now replicate what they see. How much of a disgrace can you be to your own soul? Don't do evil to your soul. Do good to it before it's too late. Y'all behave as if the prophet wasn't enough. As if the prophet didn't deal with hard times. Actually, if you were put in the prophet's shoe, or you put in the companion's shoe, you'll be the first ones to break. So learn from our prophet and not from society. So I made it clear that the liberal side is the weakest, most corrupt, and most backward side that you can ever see. And that these Muslims degrade themselves by tailoring Islamic talks based on what they say. And they want to talk, oh, Allah's most gracious, most merciful, and talk a patting head way. They're speaking like the liberals, like to pat your head, like a snake, or sheep wolfing, sheep floating. Pat your head as long as you dilute your religion, the worst thing you could ever do. But on the conservative side, you don't have to say much. It's very clear. At least they're a lot better that they try to take certain aspects of the biblical terms, even though they are pagan. And you don't have to see anything. They tell you what they stand for. If they say they don't like the truth, they let you know they don't like the truth. So they don't play around. They tell you the truth. They tell you they don't like the truth. They believe that Jesus was Jewish, so they have to support Israel, right or wrong, and building the Temple of Solomon. Obviously, it's wrong. Why? Because that would speed up Jesus coming back. Even though the Zionist movement was an atheistic, secular movement at the beginning. And then it became eventually a religious movement. Would Jesus be pleased with an atheistic or a secular movement? Let me use what word the biblical term says perfectly. Depart from me, I never knew you. You fools! How can you say that you are standing for what I believe in and what I stand for, but you are supporting a secular term of the state of Israel before they cover it up by being religious? Their religiousness is following that joke. There are good Jews that speaks out against this, and I'm not talking about them. There is good Jewish friends that I'm connected with that would speak on behalf of Palestine. The Orthodox Jews, the good ones, would speak out against Israel, corruption, and stand up for Palestine. So I'm not talking about the Jews. Jesus was Jewish. Look at all the other prophets before mentioning the Quran. A lot of them were Jewish. Prophet Muhammad was Arab. But the thing that I need to make mention now is the Quran tells you the truth from what is false. And the Quran says, take not for friends those Christian Jews who forms an alliance with each other. Because if you do, you belong to them. And the Quran in Surah tells you there will be a Christian who will be in love and affection for you. And they will declare, we are Christian. You had it during Prophet's time, but you have it to this day. Now identify who are the good Christians from who are the evil, disbelieving Christians. That's what you need to do. And I'm going to tell you who they are. But before I do that, let me ask you a question. Take not for friends those Jews and Christians who forms an alliance with each other. The Turkey evangelists in the West supports the state of Israel and even calls Islam, Muslims as the Magog, the Gog and Magog. Include that for even the good Christians, they call that too. So, now, why would you support either side of a party? That a party is just a waste of time. You may seem that they're elected, but they're really selected by the big mafia system, Zionist pyramid system, so you don't have any voice. And tomorrow, which is very soon, is going to be a technocratic, one world government, which you don't even have the right to live or choose. You will be a lab rat. And these are not my words. So, either you wake up before it's too late, or you drown in your misery. Now, why would you choose based on a system of shirk? Either side. And why would you tailor your religion based on wordings of a party? A waste of time. Indeed, the Republican side or the conservative side will more stick to what they stand for and use more of the biblical terms. But they're still pagan in this place. They are the disbelieving Christians. They're not the believing Christians, as in Eastern Rome. Western Rome is the disbelieving ones. And I'm going to connect that to the Mullah. And there's a surah in the Quran named Surah. And this room is not talking about the West, it's talking about a good Eastern robe. Because the Western robe was defeated and destroyed. It was not there during the prophet time. And that's a very deep history. So now, one thing you need to understand is liberal side is trillion times worse, and you should not even think for a second to be part of this. Conservative side works with Israel. There may be some that's against Israel, but in power terms, they support Israel. So take not for friends those Christian and Jews who form an alliance with each other. You have Jewish Kabbalists and you have Christian Kabbalists. And they work together for building the Temple of Solomon. And they are consolidating control. Because they're part of the Zionist pyramid system on behalf of Israel to rule. And when Israel rules, that you will rule over it. And the headquarters of Western Rome Christianity is the Vatican. You have people who protested against the Catholic Church, known as Protestants, protesting. And they have their own sect. You have Martin Luther forming the Lutheran side of Christianity. And the splitting of the church on the West to Catholic and Protestant. But it all roots down back to the Vatican because the system controls this place. And that's another subject to get to. Now, when it says in the authentic hadiths, in a good hadith, that the madhaba will happen after Jerusalem is flourishing. And he makes mention about how war will start. How some of those in the West will accept Islam, but not many. Some, and how the people in the West will turn against them. And the Muslims will say, we will not stand against our brothers. Because they're Muslim. When the ones came to Islam, they're the brothers. And so war starts. Nobody will win the Mullah al-Kubra. But then the conquest of Constantinople will be the Mahdi's army from the rubble, which is a very deep subject, will liberate the Muslim countries that has been conquered. And from this rubble is the victory of Constantinople. Remember that the Romans from the West will be 8 flags followed by 12,000 troops, the NATO nations. And it says that they will dock and damage Syria. Now it's easy to see that it's coming in the Mediterranean Sea. From the Vatican, which is the headquarters of the West, they will be coming from this direction, the Western Rome, and will be fighting the Mullah and fighting the conquest of Constantinople. But Eastern Rome is going to be coming to Islam completely. And I'm going to quote to you some evidence after this. And this is a longer subject, so partially I'm going to quote to you. Let's recap. This subject is needed to talk about in a more lengthy lecture, which I plan to do if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. But for right now, I want to just give you some points you should know. The first of these is going to be narrated with sound chains from Dhu Mihbar al-Najashi by Abu Dawood, Ahmed, Ibn Majah, and Ibn Hibban, and Al-Hakim, who declared this hadith as Sahih. And Al-Dhahabi concurred, Sahih Ibn Hibban, number 6708 and 6709. It says, "You will make a firm truce with the Romans, Western Rome, until you and the West, they wage a campaign against an enemy that is attacking them. You will be granted victory and great spoils." Now listen to this. "After you fight the enemy from behind with a truce," and I would like to get into that subject later, if the Lord wills, "then what would happen is you will alight in a plain surrounded by hills. There's someone among the Western Christians shall say that the cross has overcome, whereupon someone among the Muslims shall say, nay, Allah has overcome." See, Western Rome wants to stick with power. And now the Muslims will say Allah has overcome and shall go and break the cross. The Western Christians, Western Rome, shall kill him. Then the Muslims shall take up their arms, and the two sides shall fall upon each other. Allah shall grant martyrdom to that group of Muslims. After that, the Christians shall say, Western Christians, not Eastern Christians, say to the leaders, "We shall relieve you of the Arabs, and they shall gather up for the great battle, Al-Malhama." This part is known as Al-Malhama Al-Kubra. "They shall come to you under 80 flags, each flag gathering 12,000 troops." So pay attention to this. You make a truce first, fight an enemy from behind, then after this, truce with Western Rome, not Eastern Rome, because Eastern Rome will come to Islam. Western Rome will want to fight for power until they're defeated. After this happens, and after there's the getting of the spoils of war from the victory against the enemy, you will fight against the West. Because one will say in the plain that the cross is victorious, and the Muslims will say Allah is victorious in the plains. When that happens, the Muslims will have martyrdom there. And this will lead the West to have 80 flags followed by 12,000 troops against the Muslims, and this will be Malhama al-Kubra. So this part you get. Now let's connect this part with Sahih Muslim 2899. Usair bin Jabir radiallahu anh reported, once there blew a red storm in Kufa, that there came a person who had nothing to say but these words. Abdullah bin Mas'ud, the last hour has come. He, Abdullah bin Mas'ud, was sitting reclining against something, and he said, the last hour will not come until shares of inheritance are not distributed. And there is no rejoicing over the spoils of war. You hear that? There is no rejoicing over the spoils of war. So in the first hadith makes mention that you will be given spoils. But guess what happens? Right after this happens, you're at war. And you're at the real big war. You're at Malham al-Kubra. That's what it led to. Then look at this. Remember, after Malham al-Kubra, you have Fatul Qansaniya. At the time when Fatul Qansaniya happens, the people in the West would say, stand aside from those prisoners that you took among us. But they became Muslims. So small amounts became Muslim. And this would happen, and the Muslim will say, we will not stand away from our brothers. Because when they come to Islam, they are brothers. And so the Muslims now will be at war with the West. And they would be fighting in the conquest of Constantinople. And the Muslim will be victorious. 1/3 will flee. 1/3 will be killed. And 1/3 is victorious. Then soon after, I would like to continue. But what I need to tell you is after the Malhama al-Kubra, then you have some of the Romans in the West will say, stand aside from those people who you take as prisoners from amongst us. But they became Muslim. There's a reason why I'm repeating it. Because these ahadiths you need to put together like a puzzle. They work together. You do not isolate the hadiths. You take the authentic hadiths and put it together as a whole. So, let me continue from where I stopped off, from Sahih Muslim 2899. I'm just giving you the framework. Now, after he said that there will be no rejoicing over spoils of war, and I quoted the hadith before, that it ended up in war, that the Muslims for a short period of time, they had the spoils of war, but then it led to the Malham al-Kubra. Now listen to this. Then he said, pointing to Syria, with the gesture of his hand, the enemy shall muster strength against the Muslims. The Muslims will muster strength against them. And I said, you mean Rome, Western Rome. Because remember, they had docked at Dabiq, Syria, and they had fight an enemy from behind. So the Muslims and them went to fight, and now they come back to the place, and the place they came back to was a plain. And these will be the place where the Malhama will happen. They're coming back. And when they come back, the hadiths make mention about the Romans were already docked at Dabiq, Syria. So they're coming back to the location of the plain. And this is a much deeper subject. Then he said, pointing, and then he said, yes, there would be a terrible fight. And the Muslims will prepare a detachment for fighting unto death, which would not return, but victorious. They will fight until night will intervene them. Both sides will return without being victorious. and both will be wiped out. The Muslims will again prepare a detachment for fighting unto death, so that they may not return but victorious. When it would be the fourth day, a detachment out of the remnant of Muslims will be prepared, and Allah will decree that the enemy should be routed. And they would fight such a fight, the like of which would not be seen. That's how intense this battle is. So much so that even if a bird were to pass their flanks, it will fall down dead before reaching the end of them. There will be such a large-scale massacre that when counting would be done, 1 out of every 100 men related to one another will be found alive. So which means 99 will be killed. So what can be the joy at spoils of such war? And what inheritance will be divided? Now hear this. I mentioned the first time they were having the spoils and it led to Al-Malam al-Kubra. Now I'm saying during the time of the conquest of Constantinople, which is this port now, they would have the spoils of war. But what joy can be when so much people died and so much corruption happened? They will be in this very state that they would hear of a calamity more horrible than this, and a cry would reach them. The Dajjal has taken your place among your offspring. And then the hadith continues. Authentic hadith from Sahih Muslim 2899. Now, let me quote to you one more hadith to put it all together. I'm showing you that there will be a temporary truce and it will lead to the Mulama. That you had spoils and it led to the Mulama. After the Mulama, Al-Kubra leads to Fatul Constantinople. When the Fatul Constantinople happens, then Dajjal comes out. And it's more details to it, but I'm giving you a timeline. Now another hadith makes mention here. Imam Muslim narrates from Abu Hurairah reporting the Allah's messengers Prophet Muhammad saying, the last hour will not come until obviously the Western Romans would land at Al-Amaq or Dabik. An army consisting of the best soldiers of the people of earth at that time will come from Medina to counteract them. When they will arrange themselves in ranks, now we're dealing with the conquest of Constantinople. The Romans, Western Rome would say, do not stand between us and those Muslims who took prisoners from amongst us. Let us fight with them. And the Muslims would say, nay, by law, we would never get aside from you and from our brethren, that you may fight them. They will then fight, and a third of the army would run away, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never forgive. A third part of the army, which would be constituted of excellent martyrs in the sight of Allah, and who would be killed. And the third would be never be put to trial, would win, and they would be the conquerors of Constantinople. And as they would be busy in distributing the spoils of war, after hanging the swords by the olive trees, the Satan would cry, the Dajjal has taken your place among your family. They would then come out, but it would be of no avail. And when they would come to Syria, he would come out while they would be still preparing themselves for battle, drawing up the ranks. certainly the time of prayer shall come, and Jesus, Prophet Jesus, the son of Mary, would descend and would lead them in, well, would be asked to lead them in prayer and stuff. But this continues further, because when the Mahdi comes, if you read the Hadith, it makes mention that the Mahdi will say, "Why don't you lead?" And you know what Prophet Jesus will respond? Say, "No, you lead. For there have been commanders that have been raised and stuff. That is the honor of this nation." So when he's asked to lead the prayer, and it'll be a Fajr prayer, you come to realize that he's asked to lead the prayer, but Prophet Jesus gives it to the Mahdi to lead. To show that when he prays behind us, he will be judging with the Quran. Because authentic hadith makes mention of that. He will be praying with us, praying our salah. And he will even do Hajj. Authentic hadith makes mention. This is another deep subject. And then he will come out after the prayer finished, after he descends from the white minaret at the Masjid of Damascus. He will come out, and then Dajjal will see him. Moment Dajjal sees him, he flees and starts melting like salt in water. That's what happens. And that right there goes into a deeper meaning. To show you that if Dajjal is being speared, even though he would be killed, but Jesus now will catch him at Alud and spear him. To show you that anyone taking him as God is not God. That Dajjal, when he comes and claims to be God, Prophet Jesus would spear him as proof that he is just Dajjal. That the creator of the heavens and earth is the one who created everything. Dajjal and all these different things. But what I want to tell you is, before the conquest of Constantinople happens and is finished, I have to make mention of some points. It says 1/3 would flee. 1/3 will be martyred. And 1/3 will be victorious. So what I'm trying to tell you is, look at the amount of killing during this time. After the conquest of Constantinople happened, you will have Western Rome will be defeated. Let me read the hadith where it says this. They asked, which of the two cities will be conquered first? Prophet Muhammad replied, the city of Heraclius, Constantinople, will be conquered first, then Rome. Where is this? This is authentic hadith again. And so when you read these hadiths, what you need to understand is that all of these things complement each other. The hadith is also found in Al-Hakim. Also see Musnad Ahmad. Now, we are living at a time where Dajjal is about to come out. If you see the hadiths that are narrated to you, you will see reality. That Dajjal is very soon to come out. But Dajjal will come out when the city of Constantinople is conquered back by the Mahdi's army. And when the Mahdi's army comes out from the rubble, because the Muslim countries will be destroyed, this will be the time when peace will start to happen. Because it's make mention that the great war has to happen first. The conquest of Constantinople happens next. Then comes forth Dajjal. So this is a very long subject, but what I wanted to do is to give you a little brief framework on what happens next. Now, I would like to continue with a little more details. So after the Mullah, nobody wins, then there will be a Veto Caesarea. After the Muslims win the conquest of Constantinople and the Western Rome is defeated, then the Prophet made mention that soon after, very soon after, Rome, Italy, Rome, I'm talking about that Rome, will be defeated. Because the army that was sent from that direction, and now they retreat, they'll be defeated out there. But Eastern Rome does not go to a Mediterranean Sea. They have the landmass that goes through the Caucasus Mountains. They have other ways of getting through it. You have the Black Sea, and there's many other ways. Eastern Rome, on the other hand, condemns what Israel is doing to the Palestinian brothers. And it's headquartered in Russia today. You can't speak against the Quran or else you're in jail. Big difference from the West. So after the Western Rome is defeated, and after you already know about the victory of the Constantinople, soon after, Dajjal will come out. There will be a voice calling that Dajjal has been risen from among your places. And so the people will move and they will reach the masjid in Damascus. And in this masjid is where Jesus comes back at the white minaret in the masjid in Damascus. And the Mahdi will ask him to lead, but Prophet Jesus will say, no, you lead. For there is commanders or leaders that has been amongst your nation. This is the honor our nation was given. So, in authentic hadith from Sahih Muslim, the last hour will not come until the Romans make up the majority population of mankind. The majority of man will be Roman. But you see, Eastern Rome will come to Islam. Western Rome will be defeated. And it will happen when Jesus comes back. Here it is. In Surah 3, verse 25, mentioned when the Lord said, O Jesus, indeed I will take you and raise you to myself and purify you from those who disbelieve and make those who follow you superior to those who disbelieve in you until the day of resurrection. Until the day of resurrection. Hear this. It says, then to me is your return. Why does it say that? Because Jesus is the sign of the hour when he comes back. That's why. And in Surah 4, verse 159 says that all the people in the book must believe in him before his death. Believe that Prophet Muhammad came after Prophet Jesus, because that's what Prophet Jesus said in Surah 61. That there's somebody coming after me by the name of Ahmed. And it says those who follow you in verse 55 will be raised over those who disbelieve in you. Will be superior all the way to the day of judgment. Then to me is your return. Why? Because when Jesus comes back, authentically says that Allah will bring an end to all religions except Islam. when Jesus comes back, he will kill the swine, break the cross, and abolish the jizya. Killing the swine means killing the idea of eating pig. You see, the good Christians, they drain the blood from their meat, unlike the ones who are in the West. And their meat is more sticking to what the biblical term says, unlike the ones in the West. The biblical term talks against the swine and talks against the blood and all these other things. And this is another subject to mention of. Talking about breaking the cross, and Surah 4 verse 57, they killed him not, nor did they crucify him. So these verses tells you what will happen when Jesus comes back. That all these beliefs of Jesus dying on the cross will be abolished. That's how the cross will be broken. That the people will accept it. And what does it mean to abolish jizya? It means that the people will no longer be people of the book. They will be in our ummah, the ummah of Prophet Muhammad. That's why it says that those who follow you, Jesus, will be raised over those who disbelieve in you. Like the ones in the West, the Vatican, what do? Believe in same-sex marriage, and LGBTQ is being allowed. Eastern Rome, headquartered in Russia, which is the headquarters of Orthodox Christianity, condemns LGBTQ and condemns this corruption. So, the good will be raised over the ones who disbelieve. And I'm not saying there was not those who will accept truth in the West, but what I am saying is that when they start to accept, some of them accept truth, then the people in the West will turn against them, and that's how war will start. And the way they will be defeated is the way that they were fighting for. They wanted power, and they will be brought down for the lust of power. Because they say the cross is victorious, and the Muslims will say Allah is victorious. And they will be defeated at Constantinople, and they will be defeated at Rome, Vatican Rome, in the West. Now, since I made that part clear, and I cleared to you about Orthodox Christians versus the ones in the West, look, the ones today, the good Christians in the East, supports the Muslims. The ones in the West, they don't want to see Islam. But they are so in alliance with the Jews. So even though the verse says those who will be in love and affection for you happened during the prophet time, it continues to today. And even though you can mention so much more based on the Quran and Sunnah, because our prophets is the last and seal of the prophets, you will realize that the good Romans will make up majority of man, and that Allah will bring an end to all religions when Jesus comes back. That's why when the verse says that those who follow thee will be raised over those who disbelieve in thee all the way to the day of resurrection. And then it says, then to thee is your return. And in Surah 4 verse 159 says, let me read it to you. Surah 4 verse 159 tells you, and there is none from the people of the scripture, but that he will surely believe in him, Jesus, before his death. And on the day of resurrection, he will be a witness against them, a witness. And that's a deeper subject to get to. So, this is a time when there will be no such thing as the people of the book. Because why? The people of the book will be in our ummah, the ummah of Prophet Muhammad. They will be Muslim. A majority of man will be Roman. Now, from authentic hadith from Sahih Muslim. Now, since I clarified to you about the West and the corruption in the West and the goodness of the Eastern Romans, you will now recognize the real question that I have to ask you. Why is it you are taking sides of either side of the coin of a political party? You are taking sides of two sides of a coin that's based on a system of shirk. Instead of taking sides, because a Muslim does not take sides, but take the truth. That's the only thing he does. That's the only side he's with, the truth. And he's against falsehood. So man may be divided up into different sides, but the only thing that you should be is the side who is a person that pleases Allah. Is that hard to understand? Now, since I explained to you that these Muslims are tailoring their religion based on political parties, now ideologies, and doing subjects, whatever they say, they now cater and tailor their subjects to it. The third subject I would like to deal with is dawah. Dawah, what is it that the Muslims fail to understand about dawah? There is something that I have to tell you. Some Muslims give dawah until they are given dawah to. What do I mean? That they give some dawah to bring the person to Islam, and then they allow the ones who come to Islam to now be the person leading on, speaking and having a platform of speech. Since when does people who are desperate, people who are in misery, that just try to find a way out, find a purpose in the life, now you give them a platform as if they're some kind of sheikh, scholar, or somebody who gives a decision that uses the Quran and Sunnah. These people are ignorant of the deen. They just start to learn, and now you're giving them to speak. Why don't you give the true scholars that follow Prophet Muhammad ﷺ by true context, and not those scholars that tailor their religion based on what society wants and says? And you know what's funny? Is that some of the people that come to Islam, because they hold some kind of influence for society, the Muslims now give them the platform. So they invite them to Islam and now give them the platform to speak. So they give dawah until they're giving dawah to. These people who are celebrities or who are in the music industry or business industry, entertainment industry, were just deep down with the devil. I'm talking about these industries. And they do a lot of filthy acts, blood sacrifice, and they even tell you they're deep down with the devil. And now you give these people a platform to speak. That they just learn a little minute aspect of Islam. They don't know the religion. And now you give them a platform because you feel he holds some kind of influence in society. Forget society. focus on the law. What is people? People are just a creation. Why not focus on the creator of that creation? If Allah wants to hold the heartbeats of society, nobody will live. So why don't you focus on the law instead of people? And I'll tell you why they give these people a platform. And why they even give the typical kuffar that comes to Islam a platform. Because when they bring them to Islam, one of the objectives is they want to use the kuffar as a way of fitting in and showing that they are a part of society. Such a disgrace can you be? We are the best of people because we fight to what is right and forbid what is wrong, and you are doing a total degrade to yourself. These Muslims, they use these kuffar as a way to fit in. And I'm going to tell you the backfire that they get from it. The kuffar will now come and will now start telling people about Islam. And when they start speaking Islam, they start diluting Islam with corruption, with the poison that they had in their life. Now they're poisoning the people around them because they need knowledge. And when these Muslims give these people a platform to speak, these people are now simply giving dawah to the Muslims. So what does the kuffar see that comes to Islam? These Muslims look up to my old ways. That when I first came to Islam, I admired seeing all the people supporting me. But then, after a moment later, you don't see them at the masjid. You don't see them practicing their deen. Actually, they're going against their deen in so many ways, but trying to follow my corrupt ways, meaning the kuffar, one that is now coming to Islam, their old ways. So if these Muslims look up to my old ways, and they're not teaching me anything new, but wanting to be my old way, well, why not go back to my old ways then? Because I don't see them practicing. I don't see them teaching me anything new. I don't see them living what they have, the Quran and Sunnah. So now, when they leave Islam, while Islam is very large, around 2 billion people, some of the people leave Islam because they watch the Muslims looking up to their old ways. And they watch the Muslims in such a pathetic way of trying to fit in. That the Muslims want to now copy and mimic them as the role model. The Muslims are not proud of Prophet Muhammad as the role model. They're proud of these servants of Iblis who is trying to find a way to protect themselves now because they were in trouble. And these Muslims just don't know a thing what they're doing. I'm not talking about good Muslims. I'm talking about the wannabes, the flocks of sheep. So, I was hearing one of the people who is considered a celebrity, or some of the people who is considered a person of influence in society, saying this. And picture, they're giving these people to speak. This is one of the quotes they said. Islam, people say you have to practice to make perfect. But you don't have to do that. He believed that feedback makes perfect. And I'm like this. In Islam, you don't care about what people think. You care about what the law thinks. Feedback. So if today I said of Tom, Dick, and Harry says go left and jump off a cliff, you gonna do that? And tomorrow, if the other side says jump into a volcano, you gonna jump there too? Because of feedback? We don't need feedback. We have the Quran and Sunnah. We have what our Prophet said. If you don't read the book, one quote that he also said is they don't like to read the book. Read. They just believe and just live the life they wanted to be. No. You are not taking for a God your desires. You take a law for your God. So in order to take a law for your God, you submit to his laws. If you don't submit to his laws, then you took your desires as your God. So these people who say feedback is what makes perfect, these are sheeps. And so now the Muslims are being stooges of the sheeps. And so when they read this book, they say, I don't have time to read. One warning I have to tell you Muslims is when you give these people the platform to speak, you should have first beware that some of these people that came to Islam was deep down with the devil. How do you not know if Iblis is setting these people to come to Islam so they can behave like a Muslim, but now dilute the religion by telling you things to do why they say they are Muslim. Just the word they're Muslim appeases you, so now everything is good what they say. How shameful can you be, and how much of disgrace can you be? Remember, do not be this state. Be the state of following our prophet. Be the state where there will be a section of believers that stand for the truth and will prevail with the truth to the extent that Islam will spread as the only being there is on earth. So whenever you do dawah, do not ever take for your guide other than what Allah says and what the Prophet says. Let people of knowledge speak. Don't let the ignorant speak, as the Hadith says. Let the ignorant learn. That's a very important point. These people coming to Islam, you may say, some of these scholars and stuff, tailors the religion for people to accept Islam. And guess what happened? They want to see quantity of people rather than quality. And you know what you fail to realize? Is that the Quran tells you about the Prophet that your duty is not to convert anyone. Your duty is to deliver a message. Allah is the one who guides. So your duty is not to tailor the religion for what they want to hear. Your duty is to preach this deen and invite the way the Prophet did and not the way you want to do it. Because you are not looking for anything but to please Allah. Let Allah be the one who changes the heart. You can pray for different things, but you do not ever compromise on your deen. Because the Quran and Sunnah warns of anyone who does that. So I made that point clear. These subjects, I'm talking briefly. I plan to go in deeper lectures in the future, if Allah wills. The final subject that I would like to deal with is the subject of feminism. You see, Iblis in the Quran, watch what the Quran says here. Because the demons that work for Iblis are working for a cause. Listen to these words. Surah Baqarah, verse 102 says, and they followed instead what the devils had recited during the reign of Solomon. It was not Solomon who disbelieved, but the devils disbelieved, teaching people magic, and that which was revealed to the two angels at Babylon, Harut wa Marut. But they, the two angels, do not teach anyone unless they say, we are a trial. So do not disbelieve by practicing magic. And yet they learned from them that by which that it caused separation between a man and his wife. But they do not harm anyone through it except by Allah's permission. And the verse continues. You see, the main focus is to break up the family units, to break up the bricks of society, the foundations of society. Because if you break up a man and wife, then you have depopulation. If they have kids, the kids now will once be in a very troubled state. They will not be able to get good guidance from the Quran and Sunnah. They would instead be misled by the devil. And so, the feminist ideology is so foolish. It's an evil tactic of Iblis. Because our Prophet made mention about a man dressing like a woman and a woman dressing like a man. Showing you that Iblis wants to change the role of people. Allah created the day and the night. Can you grow plants at night? Naturally? Answer is no. Because the night is made for resting. The day is meant for something else. You can reap, you can grow food, you can do many things. So both has their functions. A man is meant to earn and protect the family unit. A woman is meant to keep up the household, meaning protect the children, teach the children, do the house chores. The man is supposed to protect the house and protect his wife and kids. The woman is supposed to support the man. She can also be a source of protection too if danger comes. In many ways. But the family unit is working together. And people populate more and more. And society becomes strong. When you do this and you teach your children truth instead of letting the government teach them for you, then you can easily get people who is doing things for the right reason. Or else you will get people who has been brainwashed and programmed by TV programs and by the school system that is built like a prison system. And that's another deep subject you get to. Now you have Muslim women wanting to give Islamic lectures to public people. Did they ever question why there was no such thing as a female khatib? Did they fail to realize the Prophet's warning that women will make up the majority in hell? Did they fail to realize that women will be one of the ones that run to Dajjal? Did they fail to realize that Hajj, why is it they're not allowed to raise their voices? Do they not realize that our Prophet said in authentic hadith about the Persian Empire that a woman leads it? Prophet said, anytime a woman leads a nation, it is bound for destruction, bound for corruption. To tell you that women is not supposed to be taking the role of a man. Even the biblical terms today tells you that a woman is not supposed to be giving a sermon. So why is the Muslims giving women to talk on conference platforms? And what would be supposed Islamic conference platform was promoting same-sex marriage? I was there, and when I saw it surprised me that they didn't read this Quran and see what happened to those type of people and the sympathizers. So please, what you should realize is that the subject of feminism is a subject I plan to do next, a lecture in itself. And I will literally uproot the foundations and the agenda behind feminism. And to show you the stoogishness of these Muslim women. That look, they would say that, why do you oppress your women? Why do you have to cover in hijab? Why do you have to do this and why do you have to do that? Now some people who claim to be Muslims, it's cherry-picking verses and taking it out of context to say that you don't have to wear the hijab. They invent something about away from the definition of what you would think a hijab is, that there's a different meaning to it. And when you listen to them, it is so easy to refute them. And that's why I plan to go into a deep subject on this. Because you can't do that. You cannot speak without putting things into context. They will complain in the past that you used to oppress people. You wear the hijab and you're oppressing your women. And one of the reasons why they want the kuffar to come to Islam, one aspect, is because they want to fit in. Some may have the good idea of getting people to come for truth. Not talking about them, but I'm talking about those who have a split idea of fitting in with society to show that, look, these people come to Islam, so they are part of society. Really? They felt humiliated some years ago when the Muslims were called terrorists or oppressive to women, Muslim women, by wearing the hijab. These are things that is easily answered, but because of the cowardness of the Muslims, not those who are following Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah and can die for the sake of Allah. Not talking about them, but I'm talking about the Shiites. What's so hard by even answering like this? Even out here, many years ago, women used to wear hijab. Many years ago, women used to not work. They used to stay in the house. I guarantee you one thing though, when they used to stay in the house, at least the relationship between a man and a woman was marriage. It was more dignity. Now, they become like animals that you call them partners. Except the people who stick to what truth stands for, and that's the Muslims who follows the Quran and Sunnah. So, you Muslims are supposed to be a people who are the best of nations because you spread what is right and you forbid the wrong. You're supposed to tell people that you see this partner way of life, these are animalistic, degraded way of life. You see, life based on marriage is half a fate, as long as it goes with the Quran and Sunnah. And you will not have all these conflicts between genders and all this stuff. Guarantee you, a lot of the problems we have today in the past was not even taught about. Wonder why suicide rate is so high. Wonder why raping is so high. You start taking a woman and making them a man, and wonder why they're getting these problems. Keep following the footsteps of the devil, and you'll get the devil's treatment too. Follow the words of Allah, and you'll have a peace in your heart. You have a spiritual agenda, a spiritual peace. You can have all the corruption in the world going on, but throughout the corruption, Allah will put a peace in your heart. That is for those who follow truth. And you can have all that you want in this world, but there will be a hole in your heart. That's why those who are billionaires, there's so much people who are billionaires or wealthy commit suicide. Because the real purpose of our life was not here to sport and play. The Quran tells you that. The Quran tells you in Surah Ayat, Surah 51, verse 56. And I'm going to read you the verse, inshallah. Surah Zariyat, verse 56 says, "And I did not create the jinn and mankind except that they should worship me." Surah Waqiyah tells you to be about the foremost people. And Surah Fatir tells you that there will be those who are the middle path, and then there will be those who are the foremost. So why don't we push each other to be of high standard? You see, the kuffar that comes into Islam, why don't we push them to a high standard? The Muslims, like usual, that would always say, not the good ones, the ones that follow Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. I'm talking about the Shiites. The ones especially on the liberal side that is forbidden to be part of, would say, you can't overwhelm them. Let me ask you this question. Whenever I speak to somebody wanting to learn about Islam and revert it, is it overwhelming to talk like this? I say, I understand that you may not memorize the Quran tomorrow, but you should try to put an effort in your life to be able to memorize the Quran. I understand that you may not understand a lot of things of Islam, but you should try to strive to learn as much as you can learn for Islam. from Islam, so on the day of judgment, you can protect yourselves and spread the message, protect others. Since when we drop the standard into beating every kind of Tom, Dick, and Harry? Why do we do that? Why do we drop our standard into being like the sheeps? When we are supposed to be the best of people because we fight what is right and we forbid what is wrong. We are supposed to be a witness. And we have a prophet that gave us the Quran through Allah's permission. Because Allah, this word of Allah, came through Angel Jibreel and came to our prophet. And this is a preserved book. No other book has been preserved in this way, in the numerical code. The Quran, if you only add a word, letter, will break that code. To tell you that this book is preserved. If you divide all the letters by 19, as Surah makes mention, over it is 19. And this is the number for the angels of hell. And that this number will be a trial to the disbelievers, and will be also something that gives iman to the believers. That's what Surah 74 says. Let me read it to you. Surah 74, verse 30. Over it are 19. And we have not made the keepers of the fire except angels. And we have not made their number except as a trial for those who disbelieve. And that those who are given the scripture will be convinced. And those who will believe will increase in faith. And those who are given the scripture and the believers, both will have no doubts. So you can see very clearly that the number itself is a very big miracle itself, because it gives iman to the believers and it exposes. It's a trial for the disbelievers. Take Surah 114. That's the amount of surahs in the Quran. Divided by 19, you get a divisible number. If you add a surah in, then you break the code. It won't be divisible anymore. Take all the words in the Quran, divided by 19. It's divisible. Add one word or take one word out. It becomes not divisible. Same way as if you take out a surah. Also, every letter divided by 19, the amount of letters in the Quran. Take out a letter or add, you'll break the code. This book is preserved and was sent to mankind. And I will end, inshallah, with this verse in Surah 16, verse 8 and 9. The same verse I started with from the more earlier of this lecture. And mention that day we will resurrect among every nation a witness over them from themselves. And we will bring you, O Muhammad Prophet, as a witness over these. Now listen to this. And we have sent down to you the book as a clarification for all things, and as a guidance and mercy and good tidings for the Muslim. And now if we combine that with the other verses saying that we are the best of nations, and also saying that Prophet is the seal of the prophets and a mercy to mankind, then you will understand that we have the duty of first practicing, implementing, then spreading. Make no mistake about it. And I will end my subject for today with, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give our brothers in Palestine to be a martyr. All our brothers and sisters and the kids that is dying, for them to be martyrs in the highest levels in Jannah. Because the martyrs, they have a very significant prize, reward. May Allah make them be at the highest levels of Jannah. Ameen. And any person who is a Muslim suffering on this earth, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make a way for him and make him find a way to get closer to him and make a way for him to make it in Jannah Firdaus. I ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make me among those who make it in Jannah Firdaus, and make anyone listening also make it in Jannah Firdaus. I end my session for today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Has tried to forget my existence. Time to remind them why they fear.